Hello, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to analyze your forehand technique at home so you can hit a much better topspin forehand. So first, you got to make sure that you get this app, Coach's Eye. It's a couple dollars. It is an incredible app. I've actually used it for 10 years. It's what I use to draw on the screen when I do the side-by-side comparisons of the pros and my subscribers that I've been making recently. So make sure you pick up this app. If you're under 18, you got to talk to your parents first, obviously. I think it's like $4 or $5, but it is an incredible app that allows you to do a side-by-side comparison of what you used to look like and what you look like now, even your technique versus the pros. So the first thing is we want to understand checkpoints. Checkpoints are places you can scroll the video to and stop your swing at a certain moment and know what to look for. So there are 6 forehand checkpoints. We're going to go over them right now. I got the Topspin Pro. I am an affiliate. If you want to pick one up, check out the description below. All right, the 6 forehand checkpoints are the ready position, the take back, the drop, contact, extension, and the finish. Those are the 6 forehand checkpoints. Let's go over each one quickly so you know what to look for when you analyze your technique. First, the ready position. I see a lot of players and they're not even ready in their ready position, right? So you don't want the racket down, you don't want your feet flat. You want your elbows out, racket up, knees wide, knees bent, and you are split stepping as your opponent hits, and specifically you want to be in the air as they make contact. So when you make this move, so you can change direction quickly, you actually want to be in the air as they make contact, because when you're in the air and then you land just after they hit, you actually synchronize your brain reacting to where they hit to when your feet hit the ground, and then you can spring into action to get that ball. One thing that I really want to mention though is get your elbows away from you. Don't have your elbows in your ready position. Learn to get your elbows out, because when your elbows are out, then your elbows are going to be up for both your forehand and your backhand. You want your elbow up on the forehand turn and on the backhand turn. So since we want to be ready in our ready position, get your elbows out. Checkpoint number 2, the unit turn. When you take the racket back, you want to take it back with both hands, and you want to do it with the tip of the racket pointing up. So when I take my racket back, I'm going to turn. Once I see it's a forehand, I'm going to turn like this. Both hands are on the racket. You can notice my elbows are out. I tell my students, when you turn, I should be able to smell your armpits. You want to turn with your elbows out and your armpits exposed, not with your elbows in. You want your elbow out, especially with this back elbow, because it actually helps keep the swing smaller, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But you want your elbows out, both hands on the racket. I don't want to just take the racket back with one hand, because then I don't coil. So the turn needs to be with both hands. You can see the tip of the racket is pointing up. By coiling at the beginning of the swing, I get to uncoil later on. When you then drop, and I'll explain why we want the elbow, and I'll show you this from the back, why we want the elbow up. Checkpoint number 3 is the drop. After we turn, we want to go down with our racket and our body. If the elbow is in, then the racket can start to swing too far behind the body. Is it okay if the racket crosses the plane a little bit like a Serena Williams? Of course, that's no problem whatsoever. It's just when it starts to get really big that you start to see problems of being late. So when your elbow is up, it helps keep the racket more on the chest side of the body. So we've got our ready position, we split step, the opponent hits, we turn with both hands, so make sure you look for that in your own technique. Then we've got to drop. Now when we drop, we want to make sure that our racket drops lower than contact height and that the racket closes. The racket being on edge is a big issue for recreational players learning to improve and work on their game. Because when the racket is straight up and down for recreational players, it leads to the racket facing up at contact. I'll show you this from the side. When the racket is on its edge, that's when you'll see the strings facing up, and that's why the ball always goes over the fence for beginners. Beginners try to get their racket straight up and down at contact by having it straight up and down in the back. If your racket is straight up and down in the back, it will always be open when you strike the ball, unless you turn the racket trying to figure out how to find the contact that's square. The problem with that is, As you turn it, it continues to turn. So if you turn late, it goes out. If you turn the racket early, it goes in the net. And then those 1 out of 10 that you time it perfectly and the ball goes over the net, you think, why can't I do that every time? You can't do it every time. That's why you feel frustrated. When you drop the racket, close the racket face around 45 degrees. What I mean by that is slanted diagonally. When you close your racket face around 45 degrees at the bottom of the swing, that allows you to then swing up to contact without having to figure out the angle. You already figured out the angle in the back with the closed racket face. Now, checkpoint number 4, the contact. We want to be coming up to the ball and we want to be brushing as we hit. See, with the Topspin Pro, you can see and feel topspin. So the ball is spinning. When you are hitting a tennis ball, the goal is to get the ball over the net and in the court. How do we do that? How do the pros hit the ball so fast with such incredible racket speed and the ball stays in? They impart topspin. That puts high pressure on the top of the ball, forcing the ball to go down into the court. So the way you create topspin is by swinging up. The more you go up, the more the ball spins down. The ball always curves the opposite direction you swing. So if I swing down and slice, you'll actually see slice rise a little bit. Think of a golf ball, somebody hitting a golf ball and the ball actually rises in the air. That's the backspin. Topspin's the reverse. If I swing up, that brings the ball down into the court. So we want to trust going up. And the only way you're going to trust going up is to make sure you're below the ball with the closed racket face. Then you're willing to swing up with the strings facing your target, brushing and going up the back. Is it possible to get too much topspin? Sure, absolutely. It's possible to put too many sprinkles on your ice cream cone, of course. But sprinkles are still good, right? I was going to say ice cream. Topspin is a good thing, right? So if you are finding that you're getting too much topspin, it is because your racket face is dropping and your racket's getting too far below the ball and the upward swing is too steep. So what you can do to regulate the amount of topspin you have is when you drop below the ball, don't drop a tremendous amount. And then the upward swing will be more shallow and you'll swing more through the ball and penetrate the court a little more with not as much topspin. So you can regulate the topspin as you go along with this. The contact as well. When we are at contact, we have to make sure that this non-hitting hand is above contact. I see players, people send me videos all the time of their forehand on Instagram, and they email me, ryan@2minutetennis.net, and I see at least half of all the people who send me videos, their non-hitting hand drops as they contact. And as they swing faster, they start to hug themselves. If you've ever seen a video of yourself and you're hugging yourself when you're hitting the ball, it's because your non-hitting arm is dropping. What you need is for your non-hitting hand to be rising as you're striking the ball. When your non-hitting hand rises, it allows you to uncoil into the shot. We talked about the coil turning with both hands. Well, now we've got to uncoil as we're hitting. We need that non-hitting hand to be rising. Just look at Dominic Thiem, just look at Victoria Azarenka, look at anyone. Like, you're not going to see a pro with their non-hitting arm down here at contact. Their non-hitting hand is rising as they're striking the ball. Now, when we swing up, we want to follow through and extend up. So this is checkpoint number 5. One simple thing that really helps amateur players understand the swing path is to understand that the swing is steeper after you hit the ball. What I typically see every day when I go to work and teach tennis on court is I see players swing up to the ball, but then they kind of chicken out and they're like, I don't really trust it. And then they swing across. They think that if they swing up, the ball is going to go out. But again, that's because the racket's straight up and down. So once you close the racket face, now we need to swing up. Now we need that racket to go up as you strike. Otherwise, you're just going to bury the ball in the net. So the closed racket face, and then here's contact. My non-hitting hand is up. Now I want to go up as I hit. The feeling needs to be after you hit the ball that you go up, not across. When you close the racket face and swing low to high like that, that's when you're truly going to pull that ball up over the net with the friction of the strings, and then the topspin brings it down. And then the last thing, the finish, I want you to catch the racket higher than eye level. Sure, in some situations, might you finish a little lower, or you might even finish up over your head like this, like Nadal? Of course. I'm just talking about the basic Andre Agassi forehand, where you catch the racket high in your left hand. So let's go over this again. The ready position, elbows out. Split stepping, that's checkpoint number 1. Look for that. Look that your ready position looks ready and active and athletic. Turn with both hands. Take the racket back, tip of the racket pointing up, elbows out. Checkpoint 3, drop your racket and your body down. Help your racket get under the ball by dropping your body too, so that you can swing up to contact. Checkpoint number 3 is the closed racket face, closing the racket down below the ball. Checkpoint 4 is the contact. Make sure that at contact, your head is on the ball, you're coming up to the contact with your legs, your non-hitting hand is higher than contact and rising during contact as you're brushing. Checkpoint number 5 is the extension. Go up. Tennis is a lifting game. Right? There's a net there, so we've got to hit the ball up over the net. So the more we swing up, the more the ball's going to come down. And then just finish it by catching the racket in your left hand nice and high so that you can then go back to the ready position. If you start filming yourself, do it in your driveway like I'm doing right here. Film yourself, use the app Coach's Eye. Look through your technique, look for each checkpoint, and look for the ideas that I just gave you. If you do that, there is no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.